of treatment for specialized treatment. And it's not just cancer, which has been going around. It's essentially increased cost of specialized treatment. And so if you go to a hospital that's not a general hospital, you know, it is an ENT, it is a dentist, it is an optician, then essentially there's that implication that means then there'll be a higher cost on constructing and equipping these hospitals. Is this a concern for you?
It is, and I believe, to be honest, if you look at the way this government is working, it doesn't like when you are closing in this gap between the rich and the poor. Remember, right now we already have a crisis when it comes to treatment and cancer treatment. It's a menace in Kenya. Cancer is killing so many people. And the moment governments start considering, because, Michelle, let's be honest, if today you went to social media and started scrolling, trust me, you won't get down without getting pay bills of people asking for, requesting for money and financial assistance for cancer treatment. So the moment that this government doesn't consider such things, it's so inhuman. And I can say this thing of government not supporting its people and having interest and or wanting the people to be poor, if I can put it that way, it has been echoed by the leader. It's only that we are not reading between the lines. I can take that example that we started with of Kimani Ichung'wah talking about young people using iPhones. It's like it's a crime for someone to use iPhone. Young people using Uber, it's like it's a crime. And remember, Kenya Kwanza government came into power by dividing the rich and the poor, telling people that they are dynasties and they are poor people, hustler people. It came promising that the hustler people, akina mama mboga, akina boda boda, will be able to say ati wangekuwa na tembea kama bosses in this city, but who are the real bosses? These politicians are the ones who break the laws with their big cars, wanatutoa kwa barabara with alarms, like they are late for everything. They're the people who are flying with 200 million budgets, yeah, saying that it was donated. They are the people who are increasing their salaries and allowances. But there are so many things that Kenyans don't know when it comes to parliamentarians' salaries and what they take home. There are so many, a lot of money that taxpayers are giving to them that they usually put in their pockets. So when you talk about healthcare, and saying that specialized treatment is going to increase tax on it, I don't think they really have the interest of people. Let's talk about land. We've seen that they are going to increase land, and people are going to be paying land rates, even for people who were not paying the land rates before. I don't think it's really fair. You've talked about your dad owning land, giving it to the 5 sons. So when you start charging that man, I'm so sure he's so old right now, he's only enjoying his retirement benefits. If you start charging him, is that really fair? Remember, the majority of Kenyans, the ones, you know, we've been in Nairobi for the longest time. There are people who live in those other areas. They have land that they cultivate. If you start charging them, what benefit are you bringing to the table? So these are the things that we are talking about, and calling out the government to really reject this thing and rethink it. Public participation has been done. People are still talking about it. Use measures, be creative. Let's talk about these things.
All right. Kennedy, your response to that, and several issues then have been raised there. The issue of medical cost of treatment, the issue of land rates as well.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It's Benjamin, not Kennedy.
Oh, sorry.
On a light note. It's important for me to draw us back a little behind. In the interest of time, I'll be very fast. During the last regime, the government introduced NHIF cover for our high school children. Remember, parents, as a parent, my parent, for example, if he has NHIF, it covers him, my mom, and us, his kids. And at that time, we were still also in high school, okay? So by introducing NHI for high school kids, remember high school children it's that age bracket of very healthy people. That is where people are healthiest, okay? Opportunity diseases are very minimum and scarce. Yet government had allocated a lot of money to insure high school children, okay? At the end of the year, at the end of a financial year, so little of that money was consumed by these children because they rarely fall sick. and somehow this money never came back to the coffers. That was part of the money that went to do campaigns with the Handshake Brothers and so on. I'll not go so much into that. This government is suggesting and saying, look here, health is not a favor. Health is a right. But how can we mitigate and make sure that we bring up these levels so that every Kenyan can have access to health?
Right.
Number one, they're saying that we do away with NHIF and we have a more universal cover that will cover both the rich and the poor, okay? Those who are earning are going to pay some percentage of the earnings, gross earnings, to the SHIF program, so that that in itself takes care of that mzee or mama mboga at home who cannot pay anything. And the government is saying that once this happens, they're going to do, is it a survey or something, to establish, and that's what Nimo was saying, that what are they looking at our KRA, why are they looking at our transactions? It's so that the government is able to establish, if you are if you are earning an income, you are employed, you have an income, you are in a bracket where you're supposed to pay for the cover, okay? But we have somebody who cannot pay for that cover. It is you who covers that person as a Kenyan, okay? So this in itself enables every Kenyan. You can walk to any facility, get treated. We have seen before, it's not the first time we see Kenyans flying out to India to seek medication. Right. It didn't start in this regime.
Will the tax proposals that essentially will have an implication on increased cost of specialized treatment have an impact on the rollout of universal health care?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. The intended income of this tax proposal and the vis-a-vis the universal health care is, at the end of the day, every Kenyan should have the ability to walk into a health facility and get treated, whether he or she has money or not.
All right. We must wind up in the interest of time with a conversation then on accountability. And Muhia, let me come back to you. As you know, by Thursday, we will know where we stand. Essentially, the country will know where we stand with regard to the finance bill of 2024. There's been many questions as to what will happen if Parliament is to reject the bill in totality. But of course, the most clearest thing now is amendment of these clauses. Does this Gen Z revolution stop with this finance bill?
I really hope that they are going to drop the bill first, not even amend it. Really praying for that. The reason why I'm saying that is that it will go a very long way to show that the government listens. Because all we're asking is for them to listen. I can't speak for the Gen Zs and their future, but what I can say is that this movement has paved way for the youth to have a voice in politics. And that's why I started by saying that we will see a very big shift in politics in Kenya in 2027. Elections. And I hope that leaders are watching out and looking and reading the signs that if you don't deliver, you're going to be sent home. There's something just before I forget that you talked about when it comes to imports and imposing taxes, adding taxes on import value added things. And I remember that Kenya is becoming the creme de la creme of people moving to Kenya. People are relocating from America, moving to Kenya. I don't know if you guys are aware of such thing. And one of the things that they are moving to Kenya is because you can find everything that is available out there. You can find these products that are available out there in our country. So the moment you start taxing them, you're sending away these people. So I think the government needs to be informed, and I think that the structure that you've been having is for dictating to people. You need to listen to people. People need to have a variety to choose from, not telling them that you'll be consuming everything local. What if someone prefers something different? So these are the things that you're supposed to be listening to. As I finish, I think for Gen Zs, I will tell them to continue voicing everything that they stand for, and the future can always be bright. I can't talk to them and say that they'll get into politics, become leaders, but if that's what they want, then let it be. But at least this time, leaders need to first listen to these young people. Okay,
Nimo, what we've seen with this revolution is the importance of civic education. And so we've seen this Gen Z demographic come out informed without really having proper structures of civic education in the country. several issues for the finance bill, for example, concerning land, healthcare, persons with disability, and now the talk of town. But when it comes to issues of accountability and then continuing to exercise the civic and demographic duty, we've seen the Gen Z now coming out and calling for the reconstitution of the IEBC, for example, because now they all want to register as voters. And you realize that it is difficult to actually register as a voter now, because when you try to vote, they tell you the IEBC, is not fully constituted and, come back later. And so these conversations seem to be going beyond the finance bill of 2024. What are your thoughts on the way youth will continue to exercise their democratic and civic duty moving forward?
Well, someone else will say Gen Z is a disease that needs to be curbed. But then Gen Z is a movement. Gen Z is a wave. Gen Z are learned. They are not seeking handouts. Gen Z are young people who actually want to hold these leaders accountable. So I think moving forward, Michelle, there is dynamics that is going to take over this political wave of this country, whereby young people will not be lied to anymore. You will not give them 500 shillings or 1,000 to vote for you at that particular time. We are holding them accountable, and Gen Z have no regret. You understand? So, Michelle, moving forward, I think Gen Z has changed the perception of so many people. So many people who are afraid to come out can now, the millennials and other generations, can now successfully come out to protest, can now successfully air out their grievances. And Google is your best friend. A Gen Z might not be a lawyer or a politician, but they have information, and information is power. Information is power.
It is interesting that we've seen people go on ChatGPT and make it much easier for youth to access certain clauses of the law as well.
Absolutely. So as you have seen, right now there are some leaders who are coming out and branding Gen Z as TikTokers and content creators. Content creation is paying these young people, unlike the government. You understand? TikTok and other apps like Facebook are now paying the young generation. We have artificial intelligence. Things are not the same anymore, and we will not be lied to. And if they're not careful, 2027, we might even take over this whole government.
All right, that's an interesting point to take comments from Kenyans who are watching this morning. The hashtag is New Dawn. You can speak to us on X at K24 TV. Let's take a look at what you are saying this morning. And we have John Kabudha there, who says, more often than not, locally produced products are costlier than imported ones. How is the government addressing the factors of production? That's with regard to the local manufacture of sanitary pads and diapers. Bill Adams says, but not through punitive taxes. Sensibility is paramount. Let's take just those two in the interest of time. We have one more from Eric Jr. there, who says, Wandalo, you should stop lying. What the government did was to give 46,000 teachers peanuts of 17K. A fully employed teacher should earn not less than 36,000 shillings, excluding allowances. All right, Wero Setem says, it's good that no politician should be seen in these areas, in these demonstrations. Let it be known that it's Kenyan youth who are doing this. All right, Don Boogie says, we cannot afford to have the divisions that come with having these politicians in our rank. We have come this far by being organic, people-led. We do not need a leader. We only need the objective, and that is reject Finance Bill 2024. Everything else is a distraction. Musa says, we don't want KK leaders' support. They ridiculed the protests. After meeting in the middle of the night, they resorted to use reverse psychology. All right, and we have Frank, who says, we know where it is heading. This is attack on Gachagua to divert our attention. Stay focused. And that is Frank there. Frank says, we're being diverted and we must stay focused. It's interesting to see what Kenyans are saying there. Wandalo, your final comments as, you know, let me give you all a round of final comments.
Oh, perfect.
Michelle, please, I have a question to Wandalo before he went up.
Absolutely.
Okay, Wandalo, we have seen, you have told us that the government is going to ensure that local companies will produce sanitary towels in this country. First and foremost, there is no cotton in this country. Secondly, how are you going to ensure that within these years of setting up the production, women of this country will not be buying imported sanitary towels, which you have imposed taxes on? That means it will be more expensive than it is as of now. And what is the government going to do about the cartels who are, for instance, right now, as a young person, if we come as a group of 10 and say, this is a good opportunity, let us open up production. I mean, let's produce sanitary towels. How sure are we that this is not political business, whereby because you don't support so and so government, you will not be given license to produce, and because you are friends of the government, you will be the only one producing them?
All right, and we add that to the question by the viewer,
yes,
who brings in an important point that more often than not, locally manufactured products start off being more expensive.
Exactly.
So what are the factors of production, and how have you mitigated that from Kenyans? Very briefly.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
I
will be as brief as possible, despite the fact that you've shot around 7 questions towards my
on
direction.
On the same issue. Too many questions that Kenyans want to know.
However, let me inform my colleague Kenyans, my youthful counterparts, that the first question on lowering cost, because locally produced commodities are costlier, as he rightfully put it, it's because probably in the previous regimes, locally manufactured commodities, the companies and manufacturers have been forced to pay tax. Okay? And it is the taxation that eventually filters up towards the end product at the shelf. The government is saying, look here, we are zero rating. We are removing taxes for all local manufacturers. Therefore, your cost of production is going to go low. For example, it was mentioned here that bread, the price of bread was increased. When President William Ruto came into power, the first thing he did, he lowered the cost of fertilizer from 7,000 to 2,500. That in itself spurred production of wheat, of maize, and in effect we saw unga came down, okay? The price of maize came down. The cost of producing wheat, because now the farmer who farms wheat was buying fertilizer at 7,000. Now the wheat farmer was buying wheat at 2,500. I mean, was buying fertilizer at 2,500. Therefore, the cost of producing wheat came down.
So unga should have been cheaper in the finance bill. That's what you said.
The government, yes, but look at got the shelves. The cost of unga, how unga was when Ruto came into power, and how unga is today. The cost of unga has gone down tremendously.
So why were we imposing a 16% VAT on bread?
There is no 16% VAT on bread being imposed.
It was a proposal.
What is happening is, and I would like Kenyans to get this so clearly, what happened is, government has been collecting VAT on the production of wheat products. Then at the end of every financial year, the government does what you call tax rebate, gives back that collected tax to the producers of the wheat products as a rebate. And therefore, it is kind of a subsidy to the producers. Then government is saying, look here, we have reduced the cost of producing wheat by lowering the price of fertilizer. We have increased road connectivity. We've increased the cost of electricity. Therefore, ostensibly, the cost of producing the same bread has somehow come down. You guys must also be lowering your cost of bread, because the cost of producing the bread has been brought down by government deliberately, using deliberate measures. So government was just suggesting and saying, look here, is it possible then, the tax we've been collecting from you, then giving it back to you as a subsidy, is it possible now after collecting it, we don't bring it back to you because we have already made an environment conducive for you to produce at a lower cost? It is not increasing by 16%. It was a tax rebate. The government was collecting the tax, then giving it back to the producers of the bread. Actually, the producers of bread have been producing bread at zero costs, but selling it to Kenyans at a profit.
But if it had meant more money for Kenyans to buy bread, and that's why the concession, was made to drop it. But let's move on from that. Let's address the issue of sanitary pads, even as we move on to a more important issue of ahead of these protests. Concerns have been raised over a stifling of the right to expression and right of freedom of movement, essentially. And this is as a result of the alleged abductions of anti-finance bill protesters and the organizers themselves. And this has happened over the last 3 days since the last protest on Thursday. Is this government-instigated kidnapping, alleged kidnapping?
First and foremost, I would like to tell my colleague Kenyans that every Kenyan has a right, and your rights end where mine start. My rights cannot be more superior than your rights. We are all here in Kenya by right. Nobody is here on favor. However, on the matter of abductions in quotes, because we have agencies in this country charged with investigating and executing that matter and determining whether indeed it is an abduction or not. I wouldn't speak much to it because up to now, I still don't have any facts. I think we have authorities that can speak to that. Yeah.
Nimo, I'd like to get your thoughts on this because we've seen, and like you mentioned, this is a very tech-savvy protest and tech-savvy movement. But we've seen a crackdown even on civil society and human rights activists who cannot access their X accounts, cannot access their WhatsApp, cannot access their Facebook accounts. We've seen those who've been picked up from inside their houses where they thought they were safe. We've seen some telling each other to switch off their phones because they're coming for you. What do you make of this?
I think this is I mean, this is a new era. Those are things that used to happen during, years back, and it should not be tolerated in this government. I think it's a way of intimidating young people because, number one, why is it that if this person is a criminal, he was not taken to the police station? You could as well just give him a call and say, Daktari, can you come to the police station so and so? And he will bring himself there. So this is a way of intimidating people who they think that are against the government. But in real sense, these are people that are fighting for injustices. But let me ask you, Michelle, if my brother here, Wandalo, said that they were investigating or whatever, why is it that the former regime, where the president was the deputy president, was the deputy president by then, they had not investigated and told us what happened to NYS 1 and 2. And if the investigations are going on, what is AUKO still investigating? Those are things that we should ask. Because if it is you cannot, when we look back, you cannot arrest a supplier because when you are supposed to supply something to an institution, you only go with a delivery note. So and there is normally a committee that signs before you going out of that institution. So the supplier has a delivery note, the committee has signed, and until to date, we don't know what happened. You understand? Right. Until today, they're investigating. So what is so urgent about kidnapping a young person who is fighting for their rights when we don't know what happened to the money that was stolen in the previous regimes and the few years that the government was there?
All right, that's an interesting point. Muhia, as we wind up, your closing comments.
First, I have to laud you for being very good at this. I couldn't believe someone can lie with a straight face. Someone just said that bread is being produced at a zero cost. There's nothing that has ever been produced at a zero cost, my brother. So I need to correct you on that. Secondly, I work for an organization, Eastern African Editor Society, and our forte is we advocate for media freedoms, making sure citizens' voices are sacrosanct and ensuring democracy wins. And we've seen journalists being beaten. They've been arrested, they've been harassed while just covering the protest. And we'd like to call out the agencies who are doing this, saying that let journalists do their job. Secondly, for the kids who are out there in the street protesting, please leave them alone. This government is a king of double speaks. They usually allow those protests and then come back to harass these kids. Why are you arresting them? Why are you abducting them? What have they done wrong? And I'm sure in Kenya we have all proper channels. If at all you have anything to do with someone, you just summon them, they come, record a statement, you investigate everything that you're supposed to do. So this manner of abducting them and intimidating them, it's not okay. And we'd like to tell Mr. President, because he's the one who said that, who gave these kids, is the one who started by saying they are allowed to protest. We'd like to tell him, please, for these people who are abducting these kids, you are not aware of the trauma that you're bringing to their families. These are people's kids. These are kids, they are still young. You're bringing trauma to them. Just let them exercise their rights.
Okay, that's a good point to end it. That is Mohia Robert. He is a communications specialist with the Eastern Africa Editors Society. We also have with us in studio Benjamin Wandalo, who is in marketing and public relations at the UDA party, as well as youth leader Nimo Sheikh. Lady and gentlemen, many thanks for making this possible. Nimo, 30 seconds. Very
30 seconds. Thank you very much. So I wanted to highlight a point where the president said that he applauded the young people of this nation, that it was right for them to come out and air their grievances, and that he will have a sit down with them and a conversation. I think this is where Kenya should be heading. I think the president needs to call young people on board. The president equally needs to be having economical meetings weekly.
Okay.
And the president also needs, you know, to consider putting public servants and civil servants to this particular ministry in the future.
Okay, all right. Let's wind it up. We're out of time anymore, unfortunately. So many thanks for speaking to us, and many thanks to you for watching us here on The New Dawn as well. My name is Michelle Ngele Odhiambo. Good morning.